Hello again. I mentioned yesterday that the Met Office is claiming that we have just had the hottest May on record. The hottest May since 1884, in fact. A claim which many people treated with some scepticism. So used are we to hearing from the Met Office that it is warmer than normal for the time of year or colder than average, that for many of us such claims just become background noise which we take for granted. However, asking ourselves what the Met Office means by normal temperatures will soon show us how it is possible constantly to make statements about the weather which seem to run counter to our own experiences. Like the idea, for instance, that we have just had the hottest spring ever recorded in this country. I thought that it might be interesting to look at just one single aspect of this racket and see exactly how it is worked by using the information which is provided by the Met Office itself on their website. I'm no sort of mathematician, so have no fear. I'm not going to start going on about standard deviations and confidence intervals or anything of that kind. In the description to this video, I give a link to a bit on the website of the Meteorological Office which sets out to answer the following question. Can you let me know, please, how you calculate global average temperatures in HADCROT 3? Right, HADCROT 3 is a ghastly acronym. It's simply a system of temperature records put together by the University of East Anglia and the Met Office. They find it they are incapable of speaking except in acronyms and weird jargon like this, by the way. The answer given to this hypothetical question is the answers to all these questions can be found in the paper, and then they tell us that the paper is called Uncertainty Estimates in Regional and Globally Observed Temperature Changes, a New Data Set. And it's from some journal or other. The authors are P. Brohan, J. Kennedy, I. Harris, P. D. Jones, and so on. Now, this doesn't sound very promising. I'll be the first to concede. It all sounds horribly arcane and hideously complicated, and probably not something that most of us will make any sense of. Have patience, for it is actually nothing of the sort. The second link I give is to that very paper upon which the Met Office relies, and it tells us what yardstick they use for what they regard as normal temperatures. On page 2 of this paper, if you click on that link, we find the following. After discussing various stations around the world where temperature is measured, we read the station normals, monthly averages over the normal period 1961 to 1990 are generated from station data for this period where possible. This then is what is meant by a temperature being above normal. Normal being the temperatures for that 29-year period between 1961 and 1990. The only problem is, of course, that the weather across the world during the 1960s and 1970s was particularly cold. This was a time when the climate was so chilly that an ice age was being predicted. Perhaps I might remind viewers of what passed for normal during those years. In June 1975, a cricket match in Buxton, up in Derbyshire, had to be abandoned because of snow. An inch of snow fell on the cricket ground during the match. In June. It snowed in London that June as well. Am I the only person to remember this? I give a link to a bit about this in the description to this video. That was a summer in that so-called normal series, a summer when the temperature dropped well below freezing in Scotland and there was an inch of snow in the north of England in the middle of summer. Then, of course, we have a normal winter, covered by the same series, that of 1962 to 1963. For those too young to remember, it began snowing on Boxing Day in 1962 in Britain, and the snow soon reached 6 foot high, even in London. It didn't thaw until Easter 1963. The snow was on the ground for literally months. For months, the temperature did not rise above freezing point. This is weather which is included in the normal series, which is used as a baseline against which this year's winter will be compared. You see, compared with that winter, any other winter is bound to be regarded as mild. Here is another curious fact. Between 1896 and 1939, there was not a single year in Britain when the average temperature dropped below freezing point for an entire month. But between 1940 and 1975, there were 5 winters in which this happened, at least a month with the average temperature below freezing point. 3 of those winters were in the 1960s and 70s, the period covered by the normal sample against which our weather is now being measured. The fact is, summers during the 1960s and early 1970s were often cold and grey, and winters were often bitterly cold. The world was going through a cold spell, you see. Using that period as your reference is really a little bit sneaky. I'm not suggesting there's any kind of conspiracy here. I don't know enough about the matter to say anything of that sort. There may well be a perfectly good reason why the index period for normal temperatures is 1961 to 1990. I'm certainly no expert in that field. But the fact remains that this is the run of years against which our modern weather is being judged. And it is also a fact that for at least half that period, say between 1961 and 1975, the weather was anything but normal. Those years were part of a run of such cold winters and poor summers, which began in about 1945, that the suspicion began to be widely voiced that an ice age was setting in. By using that period as a baseline, you'll be able practically to guarantee that any month you select now will appear warm in comparison. I hope that I've managed to make this clear, because of course meteorology and mathematics are not really subjects at which I am skilled, or indeed know very much about at all. I can, however, see, because the Met Office specifically tell us so on their website, that their calculations are based upon, and I will quote again, the station normals, monthly averages over the normal period 1961 to 90. If I have made any error here, I shall be only too happy to have it pointed out to me by anybody who knows more about this than I do myself. This really means, by the way, almost anybody in the world.